What up? What up? What up? Yo, I'm your guy, Sports PSP. Hope everyone's enjoying a fantastic day. I'm quite sure you heard of the reports from Adam Schefter from ESPN, NFL Networks, Ian Rappaport, or whoever, any prominent NFL reporter. It's official. The Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh have parted ways. John Harbaugh has been fired from the Baltimore Ravens. After 18 years, a 180-113 record with the Baltimore Ravens, a 13-11 record, a playoff record, a Super Bowl title going back to 2012, despite several AFC North titles, several AFC Championship appearances, Baltimore has decided to pull the plug on John Harbaugh. First of all, the news. Why do I think John Harbaugh was fired? Well, obviously because it's time for them to make a change. John Harbaugh, over the last couple of years, you go back to 2022, 2023, 2024, and this season, he couldn't get the job done. 23, when Lamar Jackson won his second league MVP, Baltimore had the number one seed in the AFC, a top-tier defense with Roquan Smith. They came up short against the Kansas City Chiefs. Then in 2024, they lost in the divisional round to the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, the controversial play in which Mark Andrews dropped the two-point conversion. And then this year, you look at this team, defensively, they weren't the same. If you look at Pro Football Reference, Baltimore defensively 18th. They finished the season 18th in team defense, which is an improvement because early in the season they were far worse on defense. Then you look at passing defense in the NFL, they're 30th. If you look at rushing defense, okay, they're 10th. And in scoring defense, they are around 18th. Baltimore's defense, you think of the historic defense with the 2000 defense led by Ray Lewis, and you look at them with Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed, all the great defensive players that have played with the Baltimore Ravens. You think of Baltimore, you think of defense. And defense this season was a disappointment. And speaking of defense, another reason why is because of Mike Macdonald, the former defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, who's now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, who outside of Mike Vrabel, I really think you can make a case for him to win Coach of the Year. Seattle has the number one seed in the NFC with Sam Darnold as quarterback. And if you look at Pro Football Reference, you look at the Seattle Seahawks. They have the number one team defense in the NFL. They are 10th in the NFL as far as passing defense. They are third in the NFL in rushing defense. Only the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Denver Broncos have a better rushing defense than the Seattle Seahawks. And if you look at scoring defense, Seattle is number one. And just imagine if Baltimore had Mike Macdonald. Do you think Baltimore would be a lot better with Mike Macdonald going back as the defensive coordinator? Yeah, absolutely, they would. That's a reason why Baltimore's defense completely fell apart. Now, another reason, Lamar Jackson. If it comes down to which one are they going to let go or move on from, the QB or the head coach, obviously they're going to move on from the head coach because Lamar Jackson, despite missing some games this season, and despite issues with his injuries, Lamar Jackson is still one of the top 3, top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. He's not even 29 years old yet. So you're not going to let go of Lamar Jackson. You're not if you're Baltimore. Okay? Only way if Baltimore moves on from Lamar Jackson if he decides to demand a trade. Which you got to really look at because Lamar Jackson was asked whether if he was going to be back, and he's not even thinking about that right now, considering that devastating loss Sunday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not sure. He's not even thinking about that right now. So Lamar is going to take him some time in order for him to relax and cool himself off because, like any Ravens fan, like any Ravens player, they are devastated because they had a great chance to hit the game-winning field goal, win the AFC North, and face whoever in the playoffs, and that didn't happen. So now Baltimore, unfortunately, they're sitting at home like the rest of us. Now for John Harbaugh, and according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, one of the teams that is seriously looking at John Harbaugh as a head coach is the New York Giants, and rightfully so. There are a lot of teams, of course. No surprise. Once John Harbaugh was fired, you knew somebody was going to try to get their hands on John Harbaugh. Now, who should be the head coach for the Baltimore Ravens? There are reports about Robert Saleh, who was the former and current defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. I don't mind that with Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh knows defense. Baltimore Ravens need defense. That is something that they have to emphasize heading into 2026. And that's something that they must focus on. But who knows? Are they going to keep Todd Monken, the former offensive coordinator of the Georgia Bulldogs? You don't think Todd Monken is seriously looking at as a potential head coaching candidate, considering what he has done with Lamar Jackson, particularly in 2023 and last year? Had not been for Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson would have won the league MVP. And this is the best we've seen from Lamar Jackson as a passer. You don't think Todd Monken plays a role to that? It's interesting to see what's going to happen with Baltimore. As with John Harbaugh, who's going to really look at him as a head coach? Is it going to be the Atlanta Falcons now that they moved on from Raheem Morris? Heck, and I was talking to the big fella, Undisputed World Champ. Shout out to the big fella, Undisputed World Champ and BRF Sports. Oh my God. They would be happy to have John Harbaugh there as a head coach, because that's been the problem with the Falcons all throughout the time. Talent has not been the issue. They just need stability. They need coaching. They need structure. And they need someone to be more than a replacement after Raheem Morris. And they got to address the offensive needs, because if Zach Robinson is still calling plays for the offense, then that should really tell you something if you're Atlanta. You need to move on from Zach Robinson. Then you look at the New York Giants. They moved on from Brian Daboll. I would like to see John Harbaugh in New York if you're a Giants fan, because you already have the quarterback in Jackson Dart. When healthy, Cam Scatterboo, Malik Neighbors are going to come back. So, yeah, I could consider the New York Giants looking at John Harbaugh. Now, for Baltimore, either Robert Saleh or why not bring in Brian Flores? You look at the job he's done defensively with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Minnesota Vikings, as far as rushing defense, according to Pro Football, they were 21st in the NFL. That's something that they have to improve. But they did finish with the second best passing defense in the NFL, only behind the Buffalo Bills. And as far as team defense in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings finished somewhere around, let's see right here. They finished, seventh in the NFL in team defense. So you had the second best passing defense, and you had the seventh best team defense. And Brian Flores was the guy for them. I think the Ravens should either look at Robert Saleh and Brian Flores, because with Mike McDonald gone and now more than succeeding in Seattle in the NFC West, that tough division with the Los Angeles Rams and with the San Francisco 49ers, and considering how his departure was a huge blow to Baltimore, Baltimore has no other choice but to look at defense. And look, Baltimore, they're going to continue to roll on with Lamar Jackson. Plus, the $74 million salary cap hit for the Baltimore Ravens in 2026. So that's a huge number. Baltimore still wants to keep Lamar Jackson. That is, if Lamar Jackson decides to demand a trade. But I think for me, it's simple. If you're Baltimore, you got to look at Robert Saleh or Brian Flores as your head coach. But I am not surprised at all that John Harbaugh was fired. because the opportunity for Baltimore was to go to Super Bowls, win Super Bowls, and for whatever reason they fell short. The AFC Championship game against Kansas City. You also look at, like I said, Buffalo Bills in the divisional round, and this year losing that tough game Sunday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baltimore said they've had enough. It's time for them to refresh, reinvigorate the franchise. So they got to look at the head coach. As for John Harbaugh, there are some teams that are going to seriously look at him. Either that or he could pull off a Sean Payton. Because remember, after New Orleans decided to move on from Sean Payton, he sat out for a year. He was on Fox. He was on Fox Sports. He was on the Herd with Colin Cowherd for a little bit. So who knows what John Harbaugh is going to do. But anyway, please leave your comments in the comment section below. What are your thoughts about John Harbaugh being fired? Do you think it was time? Do you think it was the right decision for Baltimore to move on from John Harbaugh? Who should be the new head coach for the Baltimore Ravens? And where should John Harbaugh be? Anyway, I am your guy, Sports PSP. Enjoy the rest of your evening, rest of your day, and peace.